Should we set another place for your fiancé? Vanessa asked, lifting her wine glass with a smile sharp enough to cut skin. Or is he still imaginary? The laughter came too fast. I stood beside the gift table in my brother Daniel's new living room, holding the small silver-wrapped box I had brought for him and his wife. Around me were cousins, neighbors, Daniel's co-workers, and Vanessa's friends, all dressed like the evening had been designed for pictures, and somehow I had become the entertainment. "He's coming," I said quietly. Vanessa tilted her head. "Of course he is." My mother looked down at her plate. Daniel gave me a weak little smile, the kind that said, "Please don't make this worse," even though I hadn't started it. Then Vanessa reached toward the dining table, picked up the place card with Adrian Vale written across it, and held it up for everyone to see. "Maybe we should save this," she said, "for when Celine's fiancé finally escapes her imagination." The room laughed again. I said nothing. Then someone near the front window stopped smiling and whispered, "Why is there a limousine outside?" For half a second, no one moved. Vanessa's fingers tightened around the torn edge of Adrian's place card, but her smile stayed fixed. "Probably for the neighbors," she said brightly, too quickly. "People rent ridiculous cars for anything now." But the mood had shifted. A few guests leaned toward the windows. Daniel turned his head. Even my mother finally looked up. I glanced at my phone again, the screen still glowing with Adrian's last message. "I'm sorry. I'm delayed. Don't leave before I get there." It should have comforted me. Instead, with everyone staring, it felt like another piece of evidence against me. Vanessa noticed the phone in my hand. "Let me guess," she said, raising her voice again. "Another emergency? Another reason your mysterious fiancé can't walk through an actual door?" "He said he's on his way," I said. "Then call him." The room went quiet in that hungry way people get when they pretend they don't want drama but stop breathing so they can hear every word. I looked at Daniel. "You're really letting this happen?" His jaw tightened. "Celine, maybe just explain." "Explain what?" Vanessa stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to sound gentle and still be heard. "That you got carried away, that after Marcus left, you wanted everyone to think you'd moved on. Nobody will be angry if you admit it." There it was. Marcus, my failed engagement, dragged out again like a stain they never got tired of pointing at. I felt my throat close, the old training settling over me. Don't argue. Don't embarrass the family. Don't give them more to use. So I stood there while Vanessa turned my silence into guilt. She walked to the dining table and lifted Adrian's place card again. "You know what? Let's stop pretending." Then she tore it cleanly in half. A few people laughed, but softer this time. "There," Vanessa said, dropping the pieces onto an empty plate. "Problem solved." I stared at the torn card, my pulse beating in my ears. Then the doorbell rang. The doorbell echoed through the house, and for once, Vanessa did not have a joke ready. I took one step toward the entryway. Vanessa moved faster. She caught my arm lightly, not hard enough for anyone to call it rude, but firm enough to stop me. "Celine," she said, smiling at the guests over my shoulder. "Come help me for a second. I need to answer the door." "No, you need to breathe." Her fingers tightened. "Hallway. Now." Daniel watched us from beside the dining table. He did not follow until Vanessa had already pulled me out of the living room and into the narrow hall near the powder room, where the noise of the party became a muffled hum. The second we were out of sight, Vanessa's face changed. The soft smile disappeared. Her eyes went flat. "You are not doing this tonight," she said. I looked down at where her hand still held my arm. "Let go." She released me like she was disgusted by the contact. "Daniel has been stressed for months. This house, this party, these people, all of it matters. He has potential investors here, lenders, co-workers. He cannot afford one of your emotional performances." "My emotional performance?" I asked. "You invented a man no one has met. Adrian is real. Then where is he?" The question landed too fast. "Too practiced." I swallowed. "Delayed." Vanessa laughed under her breath. "Convenient. I never asked you to talk about him. I never asked anyone to set a place for him. No, you just dropped his name enough times for people to ask questions." She leaned closer. Adrian Vale, right? My skin prickled. I had never told Vanessa his last name directly. She saw the change in my face and smiled again, but this time there was no audience for it. What? Surprised? You aren't exactly hard to look into. You searched for him? I searched for the lie, she said, and do you know what I found? Men like that do not marry women like you. For a moment, I could not speak. Not because she had hurt me, because she had said marry. I had never told them Adrian and I were married. I forced my eyes away from her face, needing anything else to focus on, and that was when I saw the bracelet on her wrist. Gold. Minimal. Set with 3 tiny emerald stones. My breath caught. I knew that bracelet. Adrian had shown it to me on his phone 3 days earlier, smiling as he said, "My office chose a few host gifts for your brother and his wife. Tell me if this is too formal." I had laughed and told him Vanessa would probably love it. Now Vanessa was wearing it. "Where did you get that?" I asked. Her hand dropped instinctively to her wrist. Just for a second. Then she lifted her chin. "Daniel bought it for me." "No, he didn't." Her eyes narrowed. "Careful, Celine." Before I could answer, Daniel stepped into the hallway. His face was pale, his smile gone. "What is going on?" I asked him. He looked at Vanessa first, like he needed permission to speak. Then he looked at me. "Just apologize," he said quietly, "before this gets worse." My chest tightened. "Apologize for what?" "For making this about you." His voice dropped. "Vanessa told me you planned to use tonight to announce some fake engagement reveal. She said you were trying to embarrass us because nobody believed you had moved on." I stared at him. Daniel used to walk me home from school when I was little. He used to stand between me and anyone who laughed too loudly. Now he stood in his new hallway, in his expensive shirt, repeating his wife's lie like it was a fact. "You believed her without asking me?" I asked. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. From the living room, someone gasped. Then the doorbell rang again, louder this time. Vanessa stepped in front of me before I could move. This time, she did not drag me into the hallway. She wanted an audience. She turned toward the living room with her hands lifted, her hostess smile back in place. "Everyone," she called, bright and theatrical. "Let's finally meet the famous fiancé." A few guests shifted closer. My cousin Lila actually raised her phone before my mother pushed her hand down. Daniel stayed in the hallway behind me, frozen between anger and panic. Vanessa reached for the handle herself. The door opened. But Adrian was not standing there. A uniformed driver stood on the porch, straight-backed and calm, holding 3 luxury gift boxes stacked neatly in his arms. Behind him, parked along the curb, a black limousine waited with its headlights spilling across Daniel's driveway. The room went completely still. The driver looked past Vanessa. "Good evening. I have a delivery for Mr. and Mrs. Daniel Marlowe." Vanessa's smile flickered, then snapped back into place. "How lovely," she said, reaching for the boxes. "I'll take those." The driver did not hand them over. He glanced down at the sealed cream envelope resting on top of the largest box. Mr. Vale asked that these be received formally. At the sound of Adrian's name, the whispers started. "Mr. Vale," someone repeated. Vanessa gave a small laugh. "Well, anyone can hire a driver and send boxes." The driver's expression did not change. He also asked for Mrs. Celine Marlowe to open the envelope first. That was when the room turned toward me, not with laughter this time. With curiosity. I walked forward slowly. Vanessa's shoulder brushed mine as I passed, and I felt her body go rigid. The driver handed me the envelope with both hands. My name was written across the front in Adrian's clean handwriting. Celine. For the first time that night, the silence belonged to me. I opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten note. "For Daniel's new home, with respect for Celine's family. I hope tonight can be a beginning." Beneath the note was a thick card embossed with silver lettering. Vale Holdings. Daniel made a sound behind me. Not a word. More like the air had been knocked out of him. I turned. His face had gone pale. One of his co-workers, a man I had seen him greeting too warmly earlier, leaned toward another guest and whispered, "That's the firm, the one Daniel's been trying to bring into the property expansion." Vanessa heard it too. Her mouth opened, then closed. For one brief second, I saw it. Not embarrassment, recognition. She already knew. She knew Adrian's name. She knew his company mattered to Daniel. She knew enough to search for him, mock me with him, and still stand in front of a room full of people calling him fake. My fingers tightened around the card. "You knew who he was," I said. Vanessa's eyes flashed. "Don't be ridiculous." "You knew." She stepped forward and snatched the card from my hand, so quickly the corner scraped my finger. "This proves nothing," she said, holding it up like she could make the entire room agree by sheer force. "Anyone can print a card. Anyone can send flowers, boxes, cars. That does not make him your fiancé." "They aren't flowers," the driver said evenly. Vanessa turned on him. "Excuse me?" He looked at her for the first time with the same calm he had arrived with. "And Mr. Vale asked me to wait." Daniel stepped closer. "Wait for what?" The driver glanced toward the street. "He is 2 minutes behind us." Before anyone could answer, bright headlights swept across the front windows, washing Vanessa's face in white light. The headlights stopped at the curb. No one in the living room spoke. Daniel moved first, almost stumbling around the coffee table to get to the window. A few guests stepped aside for him. Vanessa stayed where she was, still holding the Vale Holdings card between 2 fingers, but her hand had begun to tremble. "It's just another delivery," she said. Nobody answered her. Outside, the limousine door remained closed. The driver gave a polite nod and stepped back onto the porch, but he did not leave. He waited beside the entryway like someone following instructions, not guessing. I looked at Daniel. "What does Vale Holdings have to do with your housewarming?" His shoulders tightened. "Daniel," I said, "answer me." He did not turn around. "It's business." "What business?" Vanessa cut in quickly. "Celine, don't start interrogating people in the middle of a party." I looked at her wrist again. The gold bracelet caught the light every time she moved. "You already started this party with my name in your mouth." A low murmur went through the room. One of Daniel's guests, a broad-shouldered man in a navy blazer, cleared his throat. Daniel mentioned a personal connection to Adrian Vale several times. Daniel spun toward him. "Rob, not now." Rob looked uncomfortable but did not take it back. "You said there was family alignment, that Adrian Vale would give the project serious consideration because of Celine." The words landed so hard I forgot to breathe. "Because of Celine." I turned toward Daniel. "You used me?" His face flushed. "It wasn't like that." Vanessa stepped between us, sharper now, no performance left. Daniel was trying to secure something for this family. For once, your little life was useful. My mother inhaled like Vanessa had slapped someone. I stared at my sister-in-law, and something inside me went very still. All night, they had mocked Adrian as fake. They had laughed at an empty chair, torn his name in half, made me stand alone in front of relatives and strangers. But behind closed doors, they had been using that same name to open business doors. The driver returned from the porch. This time, he carried a second envelope. He walked past Vanessa without looking at her and handed it directly to me. "Mr. Vale asked me to give you this before he entered." Vanessa took one step forward. "No, that is private." The driver's gaze moved to her wrist, then back to me. "It is for Mrs. Marlowe." I opened the envelope with fingers that felt cold. Inside were printed copies of emails. At first, the words blurred together. Then certain phrases sharpened. "Direct family connection." "Celine has already spoken with him. Adrian considers Daniel almost family." My stomach dropped. There were attachments, too. One was a cropped photograph from a private dinner Adrian and I had shared weeks earlier. In the photo, only his hand, my hand, and the edge of a ring box were visible. I had sent it to one person. I turned slowly toward my mother. Her eyes were already wet. "Mom," I said. She pressed a hand to her chest. "Vanessa said it was just to help Daniel. She said you wouldn't mind. She said Adrian was practically family already." Vanessa snapped. "Because he was supposed to be. If Celine had just behaved normally, None of this would have mattered. Behaved normally? I asked. You hide everything, she said, voice rising. You act fragile, then expect everyone to tiptoe around you. Daniel needed this. We needed this. Daniel looked at the emails in my hand, then at Vanessa. What did you send them? Vanessa did not answer. The front door, still half open, moved wider. A man stepped into the doorway. Before I saw his face clearly, I heard his voice. Calm, familiar, unmistakable. Celine, Adrian said. Are you all right? Adrian stepped fully into my brother's house, and the room seemed to shrink around him. He wore a dark suit without a wrinkle in it, his expression controlled, his eyes already on me. Behind him, his assistant carried one final gift box, smaller than the others, tied with a silver ribbon. Nobody laughed now. Adrian crossed the entryway without greeting the room first. He came straight to me, took the emails from my shaking hand, and then gently turned my palm upward where the card had scraped my finger. Are you hurt? He asked. I shook my head once, but my eyes burned. I'm all right, I whispered. His thumb brushed over my knuckles. You don't have to be polite for them. That was when Vanessa found her voice. Adrian, she said, stepping forward with a bright, desperate smile. I'm so sorry for the confusion. We were only trying to make sense of things. You know how Celine can be about privacy. Adrian turned his head slowly. Vanessa extended her hand. He looked at it, then back at her face. Mrs. Marlowe, we have never been introduced. Her hand froze in the air. A few guests looked away, embarrassed for her. Daniel shut his eyes for a second, as if the sentence had physically hit him. Vanessa dropped her hand. Of course. I only meant... You meant to imply familiarity, Adrian said. The room went still again. His voice was not loud. That made it worse. He did not need volume. Everyone was already listening. Daniel stepped forward, running a hand through his hair. Mr. Vale, this is obviously a misunderstanding. Adrian looked at him. No, Daniel. A misunderstanding is when two people mistake each other's intentions. This was documented. Daniel's face changed. Adrian handed the emails to his assistant, who placed them neatly on the entry table beside the torn halves of Adrian's place card. The two pieces lay there like evidence. I came tonight, Adrian said, because Celine asked me to meet her family properly. She was nervous, but she wanted to give this evening a chance. I also intended to congratulate you on the house and speak briefly about your proposed development. Daniel swallowed. The lender, Rob, shifted near the window. Adrian continued. That opportunity ended before I arrived. Vanessa's eyes darted toward Daniel. He can't just say that because of a few emails. Adrian looked at her wrist. The bracelet glittered under the chandelier. No, he said. The emails started the review. The rest confirmed it. Daniel's voice cracked. What rest? My legal team reviewed pitch materials your group circulated last week. They implied that Vale Holdings had personal reasons to favor your project. They also implied that Celine had already discussed my position with you. I didn't, I said immediately. I know, Adrian said, still facing Daniel. Celine told me nothing about your project because Celine did not know you were using her name. My mother made a small broken sound from the dining room. Vanessa stepped backward, bumping into the edge of a chair. This is being blown out of proportion. Adrian's gaze moved to her. You sent investors a cropped photograph from a private dinner. You described Celine as emotionally unstable when convenient, then used her relationship when useful. And tonight, you mocked the same relationship in front of your guests. No one spoke. The silence was no longer waiting for drama. It was sitting inside the truth. Daniel turned to Vanessa. You said Celine was planning some fake announcement. She was hiding him, Vanessa snapped. What was I supposed to think? You searched him, I said. Vanessa's face tightened. You searched Adrian. You knew his company. You knew Daniel wanted him as an investor. You took a private photo from Mom. You opened the gift box before I got here. My eyes went to the bracelet. And then you stood in this room and called him imaginary. Vanessa's fingers closed over the bracelet. Daniel gave this to me. Daniel stared at her wrist. I didn't buy that. That sentence finished what the emails had started. My mother covered her mouth. Someone near the kitchen whispered, "Oh my God." Rob quietly reached for his coat. Adrian's assistant placed the final gift box on the table, but did not open it. Adrian looked at me, and his expression softened. "Do you want me to say it?" I knew what he meant. For 2 weeks, the truth had belonged only to us. A courthouse room, a simple dress, Adrian's hand shaking slightly when he slid the ring onto my finger. We had planned to tell my family after his acquisition closed, after the contracts were signed, after my life could not be turned into gossip before he walked through the door. I had wanted one peaceful announcement. Instead, I had been handed a public trial. I took his hand. "Yes," I said. Adrian turned to the room. "Celine did not invent me," he said, "and she is not my fiancé." Vanessa's lips parted, ready to seize on the word. Adrian continued before she could speak. "She is my wife." The room changed in an instant. My mother started crying openly. Daniel stared at me like he had missed an entire life happening in front of him. Vanessa's face drained so completely that even her lipstick looked too bright. Adrian held my hand where everyone could see my ring. "This is my wife," he said, calm and clear. "Celine Vale." For the first time all night, my name did not sound small. Vanessa whispered, "She set me up." I looked at her. My voice came out steady. "No, you built this in front of everyone because you thought I would stay quiet." Daniel turned on Vanessa. "Tell me you didn't send those emails." She lifted her chin, but her eyes were glassy. "I was helping you." "By lying to investors? By opening a door you couldn't open yourself," she snapped. Rob put on his coat. "Daniel, I'm going to step out." "Rob, wait," Daniel said. But Rob was already moving toward the door. 2 other guests followed within minutes, murmuring excuses about early mornings and long drives. The party began falling apart in pieces. First the investors, then the co-workers, then Vanessa's friends, no longer eager to be seen beside her. Adrian faced Daniel one final time. "Vale Holdings is withdrawing all interest in your proposal," he said. "You'll also receive formal notice requiring you to stop using our company name, my name, or Celine's relationship to me in any business material." Daniel's shoulders sagged. "Mr. Vale, please." "I didn't know all of it." Adrian did not soften. "You knew enough to let your wife humiliate my wife in a room full of people." Daniel looked at me then. "Celine." I stepped closer to Adrian. That was answer enough. Vanessa pulled the bracelet from her wrist and dropped it onto the entry table like it burned her. "Fine, take it. Take all of it." "No," I said. "Keep it on the table. Let everyone see what you thought you deserved." Her mouth tightened, but she had nothing left to control. The room was no longer hers. By the end of the night, Daniel and Vanessa were arguing in the kitchen, loud enough for the remaining guests to hear every word. He accused her of risking his project, his reputation, and his marriage to the truth. She accused him of being weak, of needing her, of blaming her only because the plan failed. My mother followed me to the door, crying quietly. "Celine," she said. "I'm sorry. Vanessa said the photo was only to help Daniel. I thought since Adrian was going to be family." "He was already family," I said. "You just didn't ask me." Her face crumpled. I loved my mother. That did not erase what she had handed over. "No more private details," I said. "No photos. No messages. No using my life to fix Daniel's." She nodded, pressing her fingers to her lips. Daniel called me 6 times that night. I answered once the next morning. His voice was hoarse. "I'm sorry. I should have asked you. I should have stopped her." "Yes," I said. "You should have. I don't want to lose my sister." "You didn't lose me last night," I told him. "You lost access to the version of me who stayed quiet so everyone else could stay comfortable." He had no answer. So I ended the call. In the weeks that followed, Daniel's property expansion collapsed. The lender withdrew. The investors moved on. Vanessa's polished social circle learned exactly why the housewarming had emptied early, and the same people who had laughed at me started avoiding her calls. The bracelet was returned through Adrian's office, unopened, unsigned, unwanted. Daniel and Vanessa did not separate immediately, but something between them cracked in a way everyone could hear. Their arguments became the new family gossip, and for once, my name was not the easiest thing to throw into the middle. Adrian and I held a small dinner at our own home a month later. No staged smiles, no place cards used as weapons, no relatives waiting to see whether I would break. Just candles, quiet music, a few people who had loved me before they knew what Adrian owned, and Adrian beside me at the table, his hand resting lightly over mine. I wore my wedding ring openly, not to prove he was real, not to prove I was chosen, not to prove Vanessa wrong. I wore it because I no longer hid good things from people who would only respect them after seeing a limousine outside. I did not leave my brother's housewarming with everyone's approval. I left with the truth, my husband, and the silence of people who finally understood they had mocked the wrong woman.